Now that we've discussed our data types, let's take a look at how to actually create and then alter tables. Now to create a table, the basic syntax is as you see right there. Create table, give it a name, and then it really is just a matter of listing off all of our columns. Now for completeness sake, I just want to mention real briefly here the fact that there are going to be a lot of options that you can specify for a given table and set of columns. And that's something that we're going to take a look at in a different lesson. But for right now, let's take a look at how we can create a table with our columns. So I'm going to open up the Management Studio here, create a new query window, and I'm going to create a brand new database, and I'm going to be very creative in my naming here. I'm going to name this Demo Database, and I'm going to say use Demo Database, and that will connect to that. And now, create it and use it. Perfect. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take a look at how we can create our tables now. So I'm just going to specify a real quick go statement, and that's going to separate everything up above. And then I'm going to say create table, and let's call our table orders. And what I can do inside of here is I can specify something like order ID for our order ID, and I can specify our data type, and let's say integer, and then I can specify its nullability. Now, by default, the values are null, or it will allow for a null value. If you decide that you don't want a null value, then you can specify not null. Now, if you remember, a null value is that great unknown. And null values, as a result, can be very tricky to deal with because SQL always wants to, again, maintain that sanctity of a null. So if I try to query based off of this or otherwise, I can wind up running into some potential issues. So only choose null when you truly care about a null value. So in my case, for order ID, I want that to be not null. So I'm going to specify not null. And let's put our comma up top. I'm going to specify an order date, and let's specify that just simply as a date, and let's say not null, and then let's go ahead and specify a ship date, and I'm going to say date, and let's say that I do want that to be null, so I'll specify null there. And so now, if I execute this, and I'm just going to highlight that, there we go, and hit execute. Sure enough, it tells me it completed everything successfully. And just to sort of prove that it did, I'm going to say select everything from orders. And the reason that I'm doing that in this little demo here is just so that way we can see the list of all the columns. And you'll notice, sure enough, we have all of our columns. Now, another way to investigate all of that would be to actually go into the Explorer. So I'm just drilling into my connection, into tables, into orders, and then into columns. And now what you're going to notice inside of there is that I've got my order ID, my order date, and my ship date.